This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. What is up on a Thursday? Not a ton in Yankees camp since the last time we spoke. Cam Schlittler threw off the mound and then felt good enough to throw off the mound again. That's nice. Most of the off-field action is what's concerning us this week. Anthony Volpe speaks, might be the biggest news out of camp, talking about the chip on his shoulder and the damage revealed in his actual shoulder, when he might be back, how much we believe in him, and I want to give Yankee fans a little applause for maybe influencing his rehab. I can't help but wonder after listening to his comments whether the hatred has really motivated him to be a better baseball player. I can't write him off just yet. I want to, but I can't. And anyway, what's the point? Is there a point about talking about baseball beyond 2026? Because maybe RIP baseball next year. Get your licks in. Of course, the number one counter to what I talked about in a previous show about how I don't feel quite the same ticking clock pressure this year like I did with 1 year of Juan Soto, like I did with the Juan Soto Plan B. Well, I guess the ticking clock is that there might not be a sport beyond this year for at least 2027. So we do have to talk about some labor relations stuff, plus Ryan McMahon, the shortstop. Why? And the Yankees make a new hire focused on the Asian market. Finally, we're trending in the right direction internationally. Thanks for joining us every Monday and every Thursday, typically 2 o'clock Eastern, and then on your favorite podcast platform afterwards. Thomas Carinante, welcome to the show. Let's talk ball, even though we don't have anything we don't even have the games that don't count until tomorrow.
Is this what a boring spring training is like when there's no injuries? It's just
so far so boring. Yeah,
things. People are doing things and talking, and that's it. I am grateful for some of these quotables. You know, we talked about Judge last episode. Stanton had some cool things to say, which I think we'll just touch upon lightly at the end here. But yeah, Volpe is the biggest here. Talking about a potential April return, kind of channeling the energy of the fan base and suggesting that he now has a chip on his shoulder based on everything that has happened so far. It's a tough topic of conversation, right? Like Anthony Volpe, there is no rational way to go about it. Most Yankee fans are going to be upset because of the context of it all, right? It has nothing to do with Anthony Volpe being underwhelming, right? Like, plenty of teams have underwhelming young prospects come up and they end up factoring into the plans for 3 to 5 years, and then they go on their merry way. They end up being regular everyday contributors, but they're just not good enough to hack it on the team long term. They're not worth that big extension. And that's kind of what we're looking at with Anthony Volpe. But the problem with everything that preceded Anthony Volpe was the Yankees hype, which, if anybody's listened to Joel Sherman over the last few weeks on the Pinstripe Post podcast over at the New York Post, he alludes to this with Jason Dominguez, claiming that The Martian was manufactured Yankees propaganda. No other international scouts or teams believed that Jason Dominguez had the ceiling that the Yankees had believed. So the Mickey Mantle comparisons, the fact that he was otherworldly and going to be something we've never seen before, was all Yankees hype. It was all in-house hype, trying to build up their own recruits to hopefully match whatever it is that they were envisioning, right? And Anthony Volpe was a very similar case. He was essentially anointed the starting shortstop job when he had that massive year at High A Hudson Valley. I don't think we're going to say anything to kind of refute that notion. We were excited about it. At the same time, we did caution against, are we sure that this is somebody you can factor into your plans to be a cornerstone for the next 6 to 10 years? Just because we know how fungible prospects are, and we know how many position player prospects do not pan out for the Yankees.
It does bother me when people act like that season doesn't exist, though. Like he was not great at AAA in a very limited cameo, and he definitely got elevated too quickly. And there was something fanciful about giving him the starting shortstop job to begin 2023. Obviously, it doesn't take much of a myth maker to look at it and be like, Derek Jeter, hometown shortstop. Dynasty, Anthony Volpe, hometown shortstop. Why shouldn't he start on opening day? You know, what better options do we have? Let's see it. And the Yankees moved too fast, and the Yankees wanted you to think that way. But a lot of people pretend like he wasn't extremely dominant in 2021 after an empty season in 2020, right? He's a first-round pick in 2019, low expectations. Disappears for a year because there's no baseball, comes back and puts up 1,000 OPS at the minor league level with 33 steals. No wonder everyone is excited and wants to see this guy get a chance at the next level. And yeah, relatively underwhelming comparatively the next year, but still posted an 820 OPS and 100 games, AA Somerset. Like, this did feel like a guy, not a guy who you want to, ignore potential upgrades in favor of banking your whole franchise on. But for people who thought he might be a cornerstone after 2020, those people weren't ridiculous. Those people weren't just like, it's not just that we're buying narratives that are fed to us. And it's not just like we assume every prospect who succeeds is automatically going to do the same at the MLB level. But there was reason for optimism.
Yeah, there obviously was. And there was a lot of ways to look at it too, with his ability to kind of do everything that a lot of Yankees players over the last few years weren't. He could steal bases. He could hit for average, or at least this is what we were sold on. And this is the results that we saw in high A. The hometown aspect of it made everybody feel pretty great. The Italiano, hey, Anthony Volpe from New Jersey, everybody was thrilled about that. And I don't think anybody was sitting there saying like, oh, this is BS. This is not happening. It was just more so a cautiously optimistic approach. Like, he looks good. He could be good, but it's only high A, and we're going to get a stopgap in IKF to pave the way for him. We're going to pass on Corey Seager in free agency for him. There's no way to move him to second base for a little while, or to eventually consider moving Seager to third base. Like, it's those things that make it look a lot worse. And the runway that they gave him, another problem of it all, they just let him play through essentially season-long slumps. Most of his promising numbers were compiled in 2 to 3 week spans, and then he would disappear for 6 to 8 weeks. So I think that it's an unfair situation, much like it is with Giancarlo Stanton, right? Like, the Yankees acquired Stanton, they acquired all that money, and then they decided to cut payroll. And then everybody takes it, oh, it's Stanton striking out. It's this contract. This is killing the Yankees. It's like, no, the Yankees knew what they were getting in Giancarlo Stanton. They decided to not give you the full panoramic view of what a roster should look like. They said, we're acquiring an MVP talent, and we are done after that. And you guys can deal with whatever the results are. For Anthony Volpe, it was, we have a top prospect who we believe is going to be the starting shortstop of this franchise. If he is, great. If he's not, you're going to deal with him for 3 years of underperformance. So I don't know if the fan vitriol has gotten to Volpe, has motivated him, seemed to be that way in the quotes. At the same time, like, I think Anthony Volpe has handled himself great with the media since being here. The one criticism we've had of him was after that series against the Blue Jays, when he made those ridiculous errors that cost them the game, and said that he made the right play in both of those instances, which I think was more of Yankees saying, here's how you're going to handle the media after you make a glaring mistake that even fat guy on the couch can point out. You're just going to tell them that that mistake doesn't exist and that they're stupid. And that's how the Yankees kind of handle their PR anyway. So that was the one time I think anybody was ever mad with Anthony Volpe with the media. Otherwise, he's always talking about, he works hard. We see him. Like, we see what he's doing. I think he trains very hard. I think he tries to improve himself where he has deficiencies. At the end of the day, he's just maybe not a great major leaguer, and that's it. So chip on his shoulder. Hopefully it works out. I don't know. Like, should we be giving up on him? I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that. He's still young. I think the only reason that you can say we need to give up on him is again, a Yankees problem. It could be the point of no return. They've now let him play 2 straight years of playing bad, and then 1 full year of playing like drastically injured, which then made him play bad. So I just don't know how you resurrect that. As we know, baseball is hard. We know baseball year over year. You can have a 5-WAR MVP caliber, season where maybe finish 9th in the voting or whatever. And then the next year you have a 102 OPS plus and nobody knows who you are. So the highs and the lows of the baseball season are, very few are impervious to it. But for someone as young and as impressionable as Volpe is to have these first 3 years the way that they transpired, like, it's hard to recover from that. And I'm rooting for him because it's my team and I like the Yankees. But if you're asking me, I don't think it's going to turn out well.
I don't either. And this is where obviously I get caught in a bit of a hypocritical web because, I mean, I would have pivoted already, right? I would have said that 3 years is enough, and I'm not discounting this injury-riddled season. We need to go into 2026 with a better option. But they didn't. So here we are. I can no longer advocate for that because they had the offseason, they decided not to. So I've got to make this year the make or break year. And I think the Yankees have it. I don't think you can stomach 4 subpar years, even if it's a homegrown team, because now you're getting into escalating arbitration money. Now you're getting closer to free agency after 4 years. So at that point, it's no longer like, should we pull the plug early? It's, do we want to give Anthony Volpe his next contract? If he's doing this, no. And I don't know what the ceiling is on that next contract, but yes, there is now a ready-made excuse for last year, and now we have to see whether or not that excuse was valid or that excuse was just lip service that Volpe and the Yankees are going to be able to use to justify his continued employment on the roster. This is the year for me, and so I'd like to see Volpe come in with a chip on his shoulder. I like what I saw from Volpe at the start of last year before he suffered that shoulder injury. I liked what he did after he got cortisone shots. I didn't like any of the stuff in between. And for people out there pretending that just because it's not his throwing shoulder, it couldn't create a mental block. Those people I don't think have ever played sports before.
Yeah.
It's highly possible that being impeded by one thing causes you to change your mechanics or even to just change your mentals. Like, you ever notice something weird about your body and then it's all you can think about? Like, about a week and a half ago had a sneeze that didn't resolve. You know when that happens? You just like lose a sneeze in your head. Feels like
when is it coming back?
Yeah, I want it. I miss it. Where is it? So that happened to me. And then every time I had to sneeze for the next like 5 days, my brain would remember when I lost a sneeze. And then it was like 25-75 whether I sneezed. Because then midway through, my brain convinced myself again, remember when you lost one? And then would go, oh yeah. And then I'd lose another one. Like, if you don't think that you can psychosomatically affect, I'm sure that's not what Anthony Volpe's going through. But hey, the yips start to develop when you're feeling discomfort in an area where you've never felt discomfort before. And then all of a sudden you can't do a very normal thing. And you're all thrown to, just because the injury isn't on a throwing shoulder does not mean that it should have, there's no way it would have affected his throwing or his fielding. The comment asking if they should option him to AAA after his recovery, 100% in my opinion, especially given that it's a major
month.
A month is fine. It shouldn't, if he's got that chip on his shoulder, that shows to me, and the things that he said about, I just can't wait to go back out there and play and help the team win. If I do that and play the way I know I can play, everything will take care of itself. I appreciate everything that comes with being the shortstop of the New York Yankees. I wouldn't trade it for the world. He's pretty much ego-free, and he is currently attacking this rehab as someone who, the things that come with being the shortstop for the New York Yankees, in my opinion, is fans booing you and letting you know what they're watching as you're floundering and as you're giving them nothing to cheer for. That is the pressure that comes with the position. And so if he returns and the Yankees say, he does not strike me as the kind of guy who, if the Yankees say, Jose Caballero's got a good thing right now, but we believe in you, go to AAA for a month, ramp yourself back up, take your time. We have time. We don't want you coming back soon. He's the kind of guy who would continue putting in the work. They mentioned he was talking about a potential April return. He's still not cleared to dive. Like, hurrying back would be adding more insult to the current injury. He's not going to hurry back. He's going to be itching, but he's not going to force himself back onto the field for the New York Yankees. I also think some people are reading that chip on a shoulder thing wrong. Like, that's nothing but a good thing, even if it's a little manufactured. I saw people on Twitter being like, oh, former first-round pick, guy who had a privileged upbringing has a chip on his shoulder. Give me a break. Okay, big.
Every Red Sox player says this every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the number one motivational tactic that people do to try to get themselves, jacked up for a season and try to prove people wrong. But if you don't think Anthony Volpe has people to prove wrong in his life, what are you watching? Like, he is the most detested baseball player on the most watched team in baseball right now. He has a massive chip on his shoulder. And he did after he was drafted, when he was, what was he? Jack Leiter's teammate. He was not consensus first-round shortstop. He was the Yankees reaching on a local player, a powerless glove-first shortstop who was Jack Leiter's teammate. And then he got picked at the very end of the first year. You're telling me that the 30th overall pick, there's no way he can have a chip on his shoulder? He read the pre-draft evaluations. He read the post-draft evaluations. And then he went out in 2021 after a year away from the game and played his ass off. He was great at AA in 2022 too. He got anointed the starting shortstop in 2023 and played subpar. He kept the role in 2024 and played subpar, and then had a great postseason and parlayed that into a great April, and then got hurt and then was a disaster for the rest of the year. If you don't think he has you're saying he can't have a chip on his shoulder just because his dad's a dentist or whatever? Like, give me a break with that. He clearly has an on-field chip on his shoulder, and he is right now got a lot of ground to make up for a fan base that has only negative feelings towards him.
Yeah.
This might be the only podcast saying give him a chance at all. And we're only saying it because it's February 19th. There's no one else to give a chance to.
Yeah, they have not addressed the position. That was another offseason talking point. Like, Jose Caballero is a Band-Aid. We've seen him at shortstop when Anthony Volpe missed some time last year after getting the cortisone shots. Jose Caballero is not great. He's not a solution. He is a nice guy to have off the bench that can handle a couple of positions pretty well, but like very imperfectly. We saw a number of errors he made at shortstop that made us think of Volpe. Some irresponsible plays, some boneheaded things. So the fact that the Yankees did not address this is only telling us that Anthony Volpe is getting the run that the team envisions for him in 2026. So you don't want to give him a chance? I get you. You have no choice. It's not up to you. It's not up to me. It's not up to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. He's getting his chance again. Aaron Boone spoke about this a couple weeks ago. He was on WFAN. He was point blank asked what Volpe's leash would be, and he point blank dodged the question because they don't want to have that be public. They probably don't even know themselves. And if they do know, guess what the answer is? The leash is as long as it's going to be. The leash
whatever
is going to be
they
the end of the
know,
season.
Yeah, whatever they think the leash is, they're going to internally go back on 1 to 2 times because they do not want to give up on this kid. So they can't say anything right now.
No, and they won't, and they never will. That's not something any team would say publicly. Like, imagine a man, oh, yeah, well, we look at all the Jason Dominguez stuff, right? Aaron Boone was point blank asked about that. Well, what do you see as fit with the roster? Looks like there's a bit of a logjam here, and he's probably going to start in AAA. Aaron Boone, well, he got 420 plate appearances last year, so I think he could factor into things just fine. Yeah, I mean, he could. He absolutely could, but then now the rumors are saying he's probably going to start the year in AAA, and that was kind of telegraphed based on how the Yankees handled their offseason and Jason Dominguez is fit and his struggles hitting from the right side of the plate and in left field. So you're never going to get the straight up answer from the organization about what a fate is for a certain player or what direction they're trending in terms of how they view the future for that player. And it's a two-pronged approach, right? One, they're not revealing anything to you because then you're going to hold their feet to the fire when, oh, well, you said Anthony Volpe had until July and he's batting .201. So what happened now? That's one. And then two is that if they believe in a player, they don't want to put a player in a position to feel like there's some sort of a ticking clock. Why would they do that? Why would they put more pressure on somebody like Anthony Volpe, who already has the weight of being shortstop for the New York Yankees and being bad right now? So it is what it is. We have another year of Anthony Volpe. I think the only way that this gets a little bit ugly is if he continues to have rising salaries in arbitration and the production is not commensurate with the money. And then I think that's where the Yankees might finally put their foot down because they're going to have to be smart about budgeting in 2027 and beyond when the payroll starts to get a little bit more flexible. And they can't be spending $10+ million on an undeveloped prospect who is probably a bench player at this rate.
Chip on your shoulder, I think we can all agree, though, is the funniest thing for a guy who just had shoulder surgery to say.
This good.
Like, did you even just think, like, hey, how do you feel coming into the season? Well, I have a chip on my shoulder. Didn't you have surgery to address that? Like, is there another thing? No, sorry. Actually, this is me confessing I got another big-ass chip on my shoulder.
Oh, my God. Dr. Ahmad didn't handle the chip?
Yeah, so I have to have a second procedure because they didn't notice there was a big, huge chip on my literal shoulder. I mean, if you didn't believe that this is what you're going to get to, if you didn't believe it's going to be Volpe until it's not Volpe anymore this year, the Ryan McMahon playing shortstop stuff should have convinced you. And McMahon, this is an emergency, so they say. But again, your emergency, don't be the Mets. Your emergency shouldn't be cramming guys who don't play positions into that position. They have Jose Caballero and they have Oswaldo Cabrera, who's someone who might not even make the roster and who had a horrific ankle injury last year and maybe can't handle shortstop. I don't know what his range looks like. I don't know what anything looks like. He's not playing games to start because he's still recovering, because of course he is, because his foot got detached last year. And so because they only have two shortstops who are viable and one of them maybe isn't viable and one of them might not make the opening day roster, they don't want to use Ahmed Rosario there. They're going to move Ryan McMahon and get him some shortstop reps to start off camp. And yeah, it's an emergency, but it's way closer to a reality than you might think, which is a roster building issue. McMahon has played shortstop in 3 random games in 2020. That doesn't count at all. 2020 is not a real season. He said even today, he commented on it, like Bud Black threw me out there a couple times. I don't know why in Colorado, but yeah, it's, I'm a infielder. Getting the ball in the glove shouldn't be that hard. I think I can handle it. I like the attitude, but at the same time, it's like, you mentioned a quiet camp. It has been mostly a quiet camp so far. The only nonsense is just reminders that the roster is like 85% done at best. The bullpen's still terrifying. And like the 100th percentile of the Yankees bullpen gets you to a place where you're like, fantastic. But that's also true for any team could have a good bullpen if 4 wild cards hit.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people justifying it in that way, being like, well, if Winquest is great, Hedrick is great, and Cruz is a level up, and Duvall is great, then it's a great bullpen. Yeah, no kidding. Like, that sounds fantastic. If everyone's great, that sounds fantastic. But right now, I have no reason to believe that will happen. That's kind of the shortstop thing, too. Like, yeah, I think Ryan McMahon with a glove on would be better than most. And I like the comment, Max Schumann can play shortstop too. Maybe they do give him a shot, especially if Oswaldo is just straight up not ready. Schumann, a great defender by most metrics. So not the ones that said IKF was the best defender at shortstop in the world, but actually real metrics. So maybe that is the solution and that could help. I'd rather see Max Schumann out there than Ryan McMahon. But Ryan McMahon, another reminder that we are at the stage of spring training where we're throwing people into round holes they shouldn't fit in.
I mean, this is what they've done. You said, don't be the Mets. I mean, I think the Yankees were the Mets before the Mets were the Mets and started doing this. The Yankees had Jazz at third base. They put Dominguez in left field. They put IKF in the outfield a few years ago.
Yeah.
They put
Remember that play in center field he made against the Angels where it was just like truly if you put you or me out there and you stuck a glove somewhere?
Just running around in circles.
Who is that? Yeah. You're just like, that guy's never done that or even thought about doing that before.
Yeah, I mean, Jazz at third base kind of worked, but it was like you're acquiring a guy who plays shortstop and center field, who's already versatile, right? You have 2 options, 2 very good options, 2 of the positions on the field where you have to be the most athletic possible. And they say, well, you're going to third instead. So this is not, this is what the Yankees do. And this is how a lot of these problems persist. Typically because why? We always talk about, I think a lot of what, not just us, big market fan bases talk about, get the talent, figure it out later. Sign the good guy. Who cares where he fits? The problem is that the Yankees, when they acquire the talent's not good enough to justify putting somebody at a position that they're not familiar with. So if you want to talk about signing Kyle Schwarber and throwing him in left field, yeah, 50 homers is going to overrule 10 dumb plays in left field for the 100 games that he plays on defense. But Jason Dominguez in left field when he can't hit right-handed hitters, or Jazz at third base when he doesn't want to play third base, like these are not the solutions. IKF playing shortstop where he's not really a full-time shortstop and then playing outfield, that's not a real solution. The talent doesn't justify having that square peg in a round hole. So I like Ryan McMahon a lot. Again, I know there's a lot of dissent there. My only issue with it is acquiring somebody who is at this point maybe one-dimensional. I think we'll give him another year. Again, everybody who came over at the trade deadline, it's a little bit of a shock. You're in a completely different environment. He went from Colorado to New York. So I'm willing to give him runway because the defense is so excellent, and the defense is something the Yankees need. At the end of the day, I don't care if Ryan McMahon is hitting 200 with a 600 OPS if he is not making a single error at third base, which is essentially what he does. I do have a problem with Anthony Volpe making a league-leading X amount of errors at shortstop and then hitting 209 with a 288 on base percentage. That's a problem.
That
so
stinks.
Yeah, it's bad. So for Ryan McMahon, if he's able to play some shortstop, great. I'll tell you what, I don't want to see the day that happens because who's playing third base? Ahmed Rosario playing third base? Is Jazz going back to third? At this point, is Schumann in the mix? I just put Schumann at shortstop. You acquired him because he has this great defensive versatility, and he's apparently nails. That's the one you got to use, and he's a righty bat, so it helps all the more.
Has he even shown up yet? Like, have I missed him?
Haven't heard a thing about him.
Around the one that's really funny that I totally forgot about is Seth Brown. And somebody put up a picture of Seth Brown and like genuinely indistinguishable from Paul Goldschmidt in a Yankees uniform right now. Like no beard, big circular head, bald under the helmet. Like if I saw him walking around, it's like the Simpsons episode where Marge gets Bart. He wants Bone Storm, and she gets him a Lee Carvalho's putting challenge, the video game that nobody wants. Like, a dad is definitely going to get Seth Brown's autograph and tell the kid it's Paul Goldschmidt, and then, like, they'll never know because the kid won't really look at it critically for several years, and then, like, when he's a little older, he'll be like, I think that's an S. I don't think that's a P. I think that's a P and a G. And then he'll look up Goldschmidt. A bunch of people in a Facebook group will tell him he's an idiot. I don't know if you've ever looked at those are some of the worst posts on the internet, and there are some really toxic posts when someone goes in a collectibles group and is like, I have this autograph, I don't know who it is, and everyone's like, you're a moron, and then like a bunch of people just chime in to say like, it's very obvious who that is, or no, it's not. Be nice to people. Anyway, I'd like to see Max Schumann. I'd like him to show up to camp.
I just searched him on Twitter. I know Twitter sucks, and it's probably the worst social media platform in terms of getting information that you actually need, but there is literally nothing on him since the trade 10 days ago. So I have no idea.
Yeah. Rest in peace to Max Schumann, apparently, who couldn't get a flight from Oakland. Again, yeah, it was like 10 days ago. Very cool.
It's February 9th.
Yeah. So on to even more pressing concerns. Baseball in 2026 will happen. Are we going to like where the Yankees land? It'd be great. I really hope to enjoy the end of the season. And I really hope to not have to think about there not being a season next year. Tony Clark out. This is already, as head of the Players Association, we already knew a lockout was almost definitely coming next year. This news does not change that. The question is how long the lockout is going to last, not whether it will happen. How many games will be missed, too. So the Tony Clark ouster comes because of many things. It seems like maybe an investigation over improprietary use of funds, also a relationship with sister-in-law who's an employee and inappropriate. Also, Tony Clark just was not the level of trusted negotiator that I think this process needed and deserved. You've seen him in previous negotiations. He didn't exactly make the players. He kept the union strong in that they didn't cave on a salary cap, but did he keep the union strong? There was a lot of dissent within the ranks of the union last time this issue was put up. And there was also a lot of negative PR and press directed from fans towards players last time. So it's not like the union came off scot-free. There are almost divides along political lines of who was, believing what the union was telling them and placing blame on ownership versus fans who just wanted to say this is ridiculous, players are greedy, when in reality the players were fighting for a lot more than just upper echelon salaries. Either way, there's instability. Now Bruce Myers taking over. They pulled the Yankees. They hired internally to get a labor leader to advocate for next time. So instability, bad. This change of leadership, I mean, Bruce Meyer is a hardline stance guy. We are definitely in a spot where this is more precarious than it was even a couple of days ago. Even if I trust new leadership more than I trusted Tony Clark, you've got fans worrying about losing 2 seasons now. You check Twitter, they'll say, see ya, sometime in 2028 or whatever. MLB, I do not believe is that stupid. Even the worst owners are not that stupid. They're in a time of prosperity right now. They've got the Dodgers as a big bad. As much as we hate it, that is what they want. The viewership on people trying to watch their team take down the Dodgers has never been higher. I think baseball got a lot of things wrong. I think the Dodgers TV deal is objectively unfair. The revenue they get from that, I think they have to clean up deferrals. I think concessions are going to have to be made. There's a lot of real stuff that has to be agreed upon, but a cap and floor is pretty much a non-starter. And if you want me to yell about why, I'm happy to, but that is not happening. And the owners are going to need to figure out what they can extract from the players that is not a salary cap and a salary floor. There are ways to make the game fairer. That's not the solution. And we're starting from a very odd place now that got even more tenuous.
Yeah, I really don't even know where to start with this. I do agree. And look, people are dumb, right? Like even billionaires are dumb. They make dumb decisions. So
it might be dumber than non-billionaires.
Yeah, it's quite possible. But you sit here and you look at the growth of Major League Baseball, particularly over the last 5 years, and it's undeniable. You have recognizable faces of the sport. Like we joked in years prior where it was like, Mike Trout's the best player in baseball. Will anybody recognize him if you put him in a line of criminals and you have to point out who's the best player in Major League? People couldn't. Like baseball fan, like even years ago when Aaron Judge was like emerging as a star, they did the man on the street with, who was that? Was that Jimmy Fallon?
Yeah,
it was Jimmy Fallon.
Glasses.
Yeah, and some Yankees fans that like New Yorkers who were Yankees fans. They liked the Yankees, but they didn't know what Aaron Judge looked like, some of them. Now you have Ohtani and Judge. They've both been propped up as these titans of the sport. Ohtani's a global international presence. So I think that the Dodgers situation is good for Major League Baseball too. If any singular franchise is making that much money, Major League Baseball is making that much money. So the optimist in me says there is you cannot halt this momentum. It will be detrimental to your everything you stand for financially and just, marketing wise. At the same time, I wasn't cognizant in 1994, but I believe the sport was on a very similar trajectory with popularity, and they canceled the World Series for the first time in 80 years when that lockout happened and the strike was on. So I think that the stakes are different, right? The TV deals, the impact on social media, the player recognition, the incessant now in this new age, the last 25 years, every sports league competing with one another. That's what it's become. It's how can this league get the leg up on the NFL this week? That's usually what the back and forth is. So the optimist in me again says I don't see a path for us to lose any games in 2027. It would be so counterintuitive to business. But again, we've seen very dumb things happen. On the flip side, with Tony Clark leaving, this doesn't concern me in the slightest. He was the head of the MLBPA for far too long. 13 years, like, come on. Could we get term limits on MLBPA presidents? That's a ridiculous amount of time to be in charge of a union. Like, there should be a different leader, a different voice that spans obviously a different era or viewpoint, depending on what the arguments are in that at that juncture period of time. So, and then you listen to all the players talk about their stance in the negotiating. Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens. There was another veteran there. They were saying, yeah, this hasn't really hasn't changed anything. Like, we're as strong as we were the other day. It's unfortunate, obviously, like said all the diplomatic political things, but the Players Association doesn't feel like they're in a bad spot, despite this happening. The writing was on the wall because we did hear about these financial things in the past. There were some odd dealings. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but there was always some funny business going on with the MLBPA where you're like, is something going to come of this? Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot of it was swept under the rug. And I'm sure that at this point in time, everything probably came to a head and they were like, you know what? We could probably figure this out and move on after that. So I'm not really concerned about what's going to happen at this point. I think they'll be fine.
The number one thing, and I hate to be rude to fellow baseball fans, but way too many people in way too many cities are like gleefully rooting for us to lose games because they're like, well, that's the only way we'll get a change. We got to say goodbye to 2 seasons to make it a level playing field. Then that's what we got to do, baby. And it's like, I pity people who don't love baseball enough that they would rather lose baseball for everyone. Like, you really are that. That's you. You're that person that thinks that the only chance the Pittsburgh Pirates have is to emerge from a 2-year absence, like a phoenix rising from the ashes with a salary cap and floor, and that's worth ditching baseball for 2 years, deleting World Series off the calendar, changing these players' legacies and lives just for the minute chance. Because the real, the harbinger of doom that is, I don't think people realize that bad franchises are not just going to become good franchises and destinations if we install a cap and floor. Like, I wish for everyone who is a diehard fan to experience sports joy, unless you're from Boston. But there's this thing where people just think all the wealth is going to be redistributed. If we put a cap and a floor in, people are ignoring the reality of what's going on in other sports. First of all, people cite the NHL lockout to me all the time. Like, look at that. They went into a hole and they came back and now everything's perfect in the NHL. They shortened the 2012-13 season to 48 games. They shortened the season, went from 81 to 48. Significant, but they didn't throw 2 years in a hole. They shortened a season. And if you think the NHL is solved, then that's great. But we're not talking about the same thing here. Then people who are just looking at the floor and cap and saying, reduce to 300, raise to 160. By the way, it's never going to be 160. Look at these cheap-ass owners. It's going to be like 120, 100. The floor is not going to be that high. But regardless, a cap and a floor is not going to make a superstar player sign with a team he doesn't want to play for. The Colorado Rockies are not going to get a superstar falling in their laps. And even if they do, that stupid owner is going to turn that superstar into A-Rod in Texas, where the player is miserable on a bad roster. They might need to talk about swapping the contract to somebody else to get him off the books eventually. That person is not going to spend, the owner's not going to spend above the floor. Let's say the Colorado Rockies, because the Dodgers have no room, spend $60 million on Kyle Tucker next season. They're going to stop spending there. They're not going to continue to raise that payroll above the floor. They're going to say we suckered some fool into joining our team, and that's it. We're not spending anymore. Also, the players' salaries for superstars are just going to rise higher and higher under a cap. You're not going to have the room under a cap that you think you are. Look at the NBA. Jalen Brunson wants 5 years, $420 million or whatever. Then look at what Jaylen Brown is making this year. It's like $58 million per season. Superstar salaries grow higher under a cap, which raises the price on like C+ players too, which makes it harder for cheap owners to afford as many of them as it would take to make the team actually good.
Yeah.
It takes infrastructure to build a winning culture and winning attitude. You don't get that unless you have a shrewd player development system. You're spending money on all the things that are not player contracts to make your team as viable as possible. And even after you do all that, no one's going to be the Dodgers. No one's going to be the Yankees. No one's going to be the Cubs. No one's going to be the Red Sox. You're not going to be a tentpole franchise out of nowhere. I also find it funny when I watch people basically, I think someone tweeted at me like, a bad owner should never result in a franchise being unable to compete or whatever. No. It definitely should. Bad people should not be rewarded. People who are bad at ownership, like, I'm sorry if you root for a team with a bad owner, but that should be a reason why your team loses. People with shitty processes and bad behavior and people who don't care about or dedicate enough resources to the team in the way that other owners do should absolutely have a harder chance. It should be harder for them to win than the owners that go all out and pay all expenses. So anyway, we have very few things left, but one of the lingering realities of baseball, no matter what, is that a bad owner who behaves badly and hires bad people and has bad processes is going to continue to have a bad roster. And that's also how it should be. Some teams are going to lose. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that the fans are affected. Like, obviously, that's sad. We've all been through period. Yeah, if you're maybe Yankees fans haven't been, right, because the consistency is there. But like, we're fans of other teams that have had bad leaders and bad processes, and you're affected by it, and you're subjected to watch 82 sloppy NBA games or 16 shitty NFL games. We just went through whatever the hell the Giants did over the last 13 years. So it is what it is. Like, yes, there are penalties and there are consequences for not doing things properly. Look at the NFL, right? The NFL has a salary cap. It's high. It's $305 million. The Browns are going to be the Browns. The Dolphins are going to be the Dolphins. It's just there is no way that you can conceivably change things with the snap of a finger by saying floor and ceiling. I think there should be a floor just to get owners in smaller markets to spend more, or to at least force them to spend the redistributed wealth as a result of the luxury tax system. But capping off the Dodgers and capping off the Mets doesn't do anything. That just tells you that you can't make your team better. Or like, look at the Yankees, for example. Like, if the Yankees were aggressive in fixing some of these problems that they had with DJ LeMahieu's contract and Josh Donaldson's contract and Aaron Hicks's contract, and you can even throw Giancarlo Stanton's contract in there. Like, imagine a world where the Yankees actually, like, they didn't really improve those situations, right? So like, we're living that reality. If the salary cap was there, they would not have the option. It would just be, you're screwed. You made the wrong financial decisions. It's over. You're dealing with this guy for the next 10 years. You're dealing with this guy for the next 5 years. There's no way to rectify it. Sorry. I know that in the NFL, there's all these ways to circumvent it, and there's these loopholes, but that's a lot of jargon that's going to have to be written into the labor agreement that I don't think anybody's going to want to have to endure.
No, you cannot directly compare the NFL and baseball. If people will say like, well, look, Kansas City's in the AFC Championship game in the Super Bowl every year, and that's Kansas City. Look, that's a small market. Yeah, they drafted Patrick Mahomes. They have a quarterback. They have the one guy you need. And now, what model organization is Kansas City now? They've fallen apart over the last year and a half. They still have the quarterback. They still have a chance, but that's football versus baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You get a generational talented quarterback because of the draft and whatever city you're in, you're home free. Now you have 5 years to build a championship roster under the constraints of the cap. And then your quarterback can sacrifice money and it could turn into a signing bonus or whatever Tom Brady kept doing to cheat and Patrick Mahomes is, gracefully divesting some of his earning power to help the rock. Whatever, that's great. But, in the NBA, again, if you get a mega talent on a rookie contract, then you have a chance. But in baseball, you need 18. You need to buy a whole team.
Yeah.
You draft one megastar. That means very little for you.
Look what the Angels just did.
Yeah.
Angels had Ohtani and Trout. Did nothing.
Bryce Harper going to the Nationals. I mean, then they started building. They did it right. But in year one of Bryce Harper with the Nationals, like, did they win a title? No, they did not. It takes a lot of Steven Strasburg's debut. Fantastic. Steven Strasburg's not Patrick Mahomes. It took so much work to get the Nationals where they needed to go. And then they won a title after Bryce Harper left because of the infrastructure they built up. Anyway, I wish that no teams were bad, but we are Knicks fans. We are watching a crappy owner get pooped on over and over and over again for decades. And if the Knicks ever won a title, it would mean the world to me. But I'm not sitting here being like, this bad owner deserves an 18th chance. Like, the league needs to make it easier for James Dolan to win a title. No, it's not how it works. Hopefully they win a championship. That'd be great. Thank you for joining us on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. Sorry we yelled at you. Sorry if you want a salary cap. We're mad at you. But it's not the solution. We all want solutions. The Dodgers ownership group should never have been allowed to buy that team in the first place. There should be a rule that says no cabals of billionaires with endless wealth. But that's toothpaste you can't put back in the tube. Those guys have earning power that nobody else does and spending power that nobody else does. So what are you going to do about it? Clamp down on the deferral shit. Like, figure it out, but it's not salary. It's not salary.
No, the reason the Dodgers are the Dodgers is because Shohei Ohtani is making $2 million a year and they have flexibility. He counts $46 million against the luxury tax, but that number should be, that's still nothing. That number should be 70, and the Dodgers should not have $68 million in a high yield interest account that's actually making them money for when they eventually have to pay Ohtani the years after he's done playing baseball. That's the unique advantage the Dodgers have. Like, the ownership group is powerful. There are other teams with ownership groups. The Blue Jays are one. Mm-hmm. The Mets don't have an ownership group, but if you just saw, Steve Cohen just got a $3.4 billion payout from his hedge fund last year. that's a guy who is just as, he might as well be an ownership group himself. So there's one team that has unique flexibility. It is the Dodgers, and it is because Shohei Ohtani agreed to do whatever he agreed to do because he has the lone advantage of being an international superstar, which no other player does. So I don't know how you fix that, but that's the problem.
Ban Shohei Ohtani. You heard it here for they tried to, but they got his interpreter instead. Thank you for joining us here on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. We appreciate it. Back next week. I'll be gone for Monday's show. See, but turn on your notifications, subscribe. It's the only way to find out when we're going to go live and know what's up, when we're going to maybe take a special occasion, go live at a different time than we normally would. Definitely be back Thursday afternoon, 2:00 Eastern time. I am Adam Weiner. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weiner, and many of you do. Thomas Carnante, where can the people find you?
I'm at Tommy's_takes on all platforms. You found me on TikTok, like I mentioned last episode, having a great time there. I'm going to have some more videos up for you guys soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. That's how you know when we're going live. You get the alerts. At Yanks Go Yard FS is our account on all social platforms for Yanks Go Yard. And finally, yanksgoyard.com, the website with everything you need. Yankee spring training in full force. I know it's a little bit boring because there's not a whole lot going on, but there's stuff in between the lines you got to keep up with, and we got you covered. So appreciate you guys listening and reading as always. Have yourselves a good weekend. We'll see you next week.
Take care, everybody.